All right, we are live. We are good to go. Spirit fingers, jazz hands, the whole deal. This is. Are you just gonna be half an hour of this?
I
hope
mean,
so.
why not, dude?
I hope so. By the way,
That could be fantastic. Everything I say, I'll just do a different dance to.
This is gonna be a great half hour. Come on, Brent Popolizio is joining us. I have known you now for 20 years. Is that
Almost
18?
20 years.
A long time.
It's a long time, man.
Yeah.
Most people hate me by like the 5th year. So this is I mean, you are across the country, so I guess that makes it a lot easier to like me from a distance.
I've loved you from the moment that we met. It's been
that's really
a platonic love affair from day one.
Nice. That's really nice. Your baby is probably going to come between us, I suppose.
There he is right there. By the way, I should say the name of the show, Zoom from Miles's room. This is Miles's room. There's a picture of Miles. He turned 3 months old yesterday. Happy birthday. It's not his birthday, but happy anniversary. And he lets us use the room a few times a week, and I get to chat with some of my favorite people about all the cool things they're doing. Brent, if you don't know, was a Nickelodeon star, super mega star. The host of You Pick Live, same time when I was hosting Slime Time Live. He's an actor, a producer, a content creator. He's prolific on social media. So listen, Brent and I could probably talk for 7.5 days, but we're going to try to condense this into 30 minutes or so, and with your help, because we are simulcasting on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
So here's the deal, guys. Ask questions about Nickelodeon, about whatever you want, and Brent and I will do our best to answer them.
And the beauty is I can't see whether you're asking questions or not. So Dave could totally be lying and be like, this is from Sizzy in Oklahoma. And Sizzy doesn't really exist because I have no idea.
By the way, our first question is from Susie from Oklahoma. And she wants to know, what's with your jazz hands?
Oh, man. Well, the jazz hands started, with Pippin when I was 8 years old. It was the first professional theatrical play I ever did. I was 8 years old, and I was Theo in Pippin, and I had to carry a duck on stage. And the first time I went on stage for the very first live show of that run, I carried the duck on stage, and every time I tried to say a line, the duck would quack while I was talking. And I was so mad at that duck while I was on stage that I just squeezed it as hard as I could. I was like, just stop. And it peed all over me. And I was so distraught. And that was my first professional performance on stage.
That's amazing. I was worried where that story was going. I didn't know if PETA was going to have to. I squeezed the duck.
There's a little duck abuse.
Just a little. But
I feel like
he peed on you, so.
I feel like it's nothing compared to foie gras. But, it still is right. Somewhere in the realm of duck abuse.
It's the gateway to foie gras.
It's the gateway to.
We are getting some questions, and I knew this one was coming. Where's the slime? Your show was not as heavily slime-centric as mine was. Mine, for those who saw or didn't see Slime Time Live, I mean, it was slime constantly. You managed to say, were you slime-free all the time? Did you ever get slime in your show?
We didn't do it. I don't remember. Not in that. I mean, we were in a conference room. I mean, I think it was a conference room with a closet, and then down the. I mean, that's what we were shooting in. No, I don't think we were allowed to do slime. But we did some really messy stuff. But no, we tried to. A lot of times we would go to Central Park or something like that, or an outdoor park to do real messy stuff. I remember one cold day. We had to show up early, and they put Candace and I in these, I don't know, wetsuits or something. And we had to slip and slide so many times through clam chowder and oysters and stuff, or just disgusting fish parts. It was and it was cold. It's New York. It was cold. And I was like, what am I doing? What happened to my life? What happened to me?
But it turned out to be a massive hit show. And it's so interesting because you were a musician. You were also in Pippin squeezing ducks, but you were a drummer in a band. And then you're, slipping through clam chowder on a Nickelodeon TV show. Look, and it was a great experience, but it's probably not how you were drawing up your cards when you were figuring out your career, right?
No, and I would guess for the casting department at Nickelodeon, they realized very quickly they made a huge mistake. I'm going to assume that from the moment they hired me, they regretted their decision.
How did it happen? How did the audition process go down? What was it like?
It's so weird because I certainly was like, Candace was like 20 or 21. I was like 26, 27. So I remember I had just gotten a new manager too. And the manager was like, the first audition he got me, he was like, you want to go host a Nickelodeon show? And I was like, no. I was like, but I'll go, whatever. It might be an opportunity to get in front of the casting director and get seen for other shows. And I went in there just totally flippant, had crazy hair, a jean jacket on. I certainly looked older and more rough around the edges than the other young, strapping, 22-year-old, hey, what's going on? My name's Wayne, and they were just like, I was like, okay, Wayne, like meet me at the dive bar later. Meet me at the dive bar later, and I'll show you what New York's all about. And so I just kind of went in flippant, and I think they sort of liked that sort of, kind of laissez-faire, kind of, maybe I was a little more seasoned than some of the other guys who were auditioning, whatever it was. And got called back and was told like they kind of liked that attitude and sort of the authentic way that I was kind of not talking down to the kids. And I was just like, what's up, Jimmy? Like, let's do this. Let's have fun. And then truthfully, there were a ton of auditions, ton of callbacks, and I got it. And then I immediately saw you hosting your show. And I was like, oh, I have no idea how to host a television show. I get it. I'm an idiot. And so I started watching you do it, and I was like, oh no, that's how you host a show. And actually, the funny thing is that it was you and Ryan Seacrest and Jeff Probst who were like Jeff and Ryan and me. I mean, you had been doing it for a little while longer than me, but those two guys those shows kind of started when we started, like they were right 2000, 2001. And so I was watching you three and quickly trying to figure out how to host, because I really had no idea what I was doing.
But you nailed it. And it's so interesting. You think about Nickelodeon, and for both of us, I wanted to be a sportscaster. That was my dream when I was in high school and college. I never thought I'd be hosting a game show on Nickelodeon. So for both of us, it wasn't necessarily where we thought we would go, but by the same token, it is live national television, and it's this enormous audience and this huge brands. And I mean, for me, what a wonderful experience. And I know for you too, just an incredible time in your life.
It's the best. I mean, I think there was something I gravitated towards very quickly about it because I had just grown up doing theater. And even I went to school for theater. I did a residency at a theater the year I got out of school. I then moved to New York and did the public theater program. I mean, I was like, and I had done theater since I was 6 years old, and in real plays and in real productions and getting paid to do it around Massachusetts and Boston. So for me, I had always wanted to be on a true sitcom. Like that was where I wanted to be. I mean, I still do. I mean, I still audition for stuff all the time. There's very few of them now with a live studio audience. They're few and far between. But that was like, to me, the pinnacle was, could I rehearse all week, then get in front of a live audience? And the beauty is, not only do you get in front of a live audience and do it, but you get to do it. If you screw it up, you get to do it again. So like, right. I mean, it's like the best of all worlds. You rehearse all week and then you crush it, and you crush it in front of a live audience. So for me, Nickelodeon that was the closest I had gotten, and that was, and once I really leaned into it, I think it took me a little bit to figure out, like, how do I talk to kids? I was such a weird grown-up, like living this very grown-up life in New York that was so un-Nickelodeon, that when it took me a little while, and I'll tell you, I had an epiphany, and I tell this story often when people ask me, but really, Adam Sandler was LL Cool J was our first big guest, but Adam Sandler kind of put us in that category of like, oh, this show gets A-list celebrities. And at that point, I was still waffling, trying to get my bearings and all that stuff. And Adam came on, and our stage manager was like, kids, look, it's Adam Sandler. And Adam walks in, he's got sweatpants and like a crappy t-shirt on or whatever he had on. And he walks in, he's totally quiet. Kids are like, ah! The kids don't know who Adam Sandler is. Like, he's about to put out like a 8 Crazy Nights or whatever movie, animated movie, but they don't know Adam Sandler. They haven't watched SNL or, Happy Gilmore at this point. They're like 7 years old. And he walks straight up to the kids, and he looks at them all, and he's super quiet. And everyone kind of just has this weird, awkward feeling in the room. And the adults, too, were all just kind of like waiting to see what he's going to do. And he just looks at them all, and he goes, "Shut up!" And he walks away. And I was like, oh, my God. He just told all these little children to shut up. And then they all just go, "Ah!" And everyone in the room just starts laughing. And I was like, wow, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
He sort of showed me in that tiny little moment that I didn't have to pretend. I didn't have to be anything other than what I was. I mean, obviously using my comedy, and he's using his comedy, but that was that moment. It was awesome.
Yeah. Like, we had some of that stuff too on Slime Time, where we would prep these games. They would create these games and we'd rehearse them. And I'm like, are kids really gonna care about like dumping cereal on their heads? And then we do it live and people are freaking out like you're dumping gold coins on their head. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, I guess kids love this stuff. Let's do it. Let's dump cereal.
Totally. And your audience was amazing. I remember going down going down to that audience, and the energy in there was just so much. I mean, people wanted to be on that show. We had a tiny little audience, and, a lot of times it was, kids of parents who worked at Nickelodeon or whatever. Not that they were jaded or anything. They were wonderful kids, but it was so small and tight, and yours was just so big. And I remember going out there and being like, oh my God, this is like your eyes just like bonk out of your head. They were,
yeah. As a host,
ton of fun.
As a host, like, even if you weren't feeling it on a particular day, you had no excuse not to bring it because there was just constant energy. All right, if you guys are just joining us right now, that is who you think it is. Yes, Brent Popolizio, the star of You Pick Live. And by the way, if you don't know him from Nickelodeon, you're probably like, has that guy sold me a BMW, or where have I seen him? He's a renowned commercial actor, which we are going to get to. And
I've sold people about 140 things in my life.
I mean, there's a lot of commercials. I want you guys to ask us some questions. So Brent's been a host. He's been a classically trained actor. He's a successful commercial actor. He's a producer. He's working for this great project, which we're going to talk about in a bit. So whatever you guys want to know creatively, fire away. Ask the questions on Facebook. We do have a ton of people watching. My wife says that my son says hi. So there you go.
Hey, what up, Miles? I'm going to be your crazy uncle who lives in LA, and you're going to come out and visit me, and hopefully you're the right age so we could do fun things together. And
you got to wait a while. You got to wait a while for that, my friend.
By the way,
yeah.
Can I just say the magic of Facebook is hiding the fact that right behind me is a ton of laundry right on the coffee table there. Can you see it? Can you see the laundry?
We can now, yeah. Are you separating?
Nice? Look, and now I look like a professional in a professional room.
None of us would have ever known. You've broken down the
I wanted to lift the veil.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm the Bertolt Brecht of Facebook. I hope somebody out there gets that reference.
I think if anyone got it, please let us know.
For the love of God.
All right. So you among the many things you're doing now, you're in a bunch of commercials. I see you all the time on TV. I want to talk to you about the process of commercial acting. It's so different than hosting a game show or hosting a variety show on a major network. But obviously there is massive skill to it. I can tell you when I lived in LA, I sucked at auditioning for commercials. I
It's hard.
hated the experience. I hated it so much. How do you do it, man?
So I mean, literally, like, I've been dying to teach a class on this, and I don't know where to do it, but I would love to do it. It's a skill. It's a 30-second story. And you have to realize that not only is it a 30-second story, it's probably a 24-second story, right? That's why everyone spends so much money on getting it absolutely perfect. That's why everything is in place in the room, why everything has to be pristine, why they go over the moments a million times with the actors, because if there's anything out of place in that 24 seconds that pulls your eye, you're not going to get the story. The story's gone for you. Like, you'll look at that other thing and they can't have that, right? So that's why people always make fun of it. Like, well, I guess people who are in the commercial world as actors, as producers and things, make fun of it because it's like this precise art. So the first thing you have to realize is that no one cares about you. The only thing they care about is you serving the story at that moment. And that goes generally for all acting, right? Certainly. But
Hosting
they
too, I think.
But they want you to infuse you if you're playing a half an hour story arc. And then if they're doing a film, they really want, I mean, that's why Tom Cruise does so many movies, right? He's very good at being Tom Cruise. He's excellent at that, right? And so you get this Tom Cruise and you know you're going to get it for an hour and a half, and that's great, right? You're going to get energy, you're going to get determination, you're going to get power, you're going to get, Tom Cruise's never stop attitude, and that's wonderful. But nobody wants Tom Cruise in that 24 seconds. They just want you to serve the moment. And then I have this sort of tier. So from the least subtle to the most subtle. The least subtle is musical theater acting, then it's stage acting, then it's television, then it's film, then it's commercials. Commercials is the most subtle, which is crazy because this guy is actually really good at being this guy and just sitting there.
So did you learn this? Did you learn this trial by fire? Did anyone teach you this? What was that process?
Yeah, I just figured it out by being told I sucked so many times that I was like, that's great. I'm going to take that to heart. And then I'm going to cry, and I'm going to go home and ask myself why I suck. Then I'm going to go to therapy to tell the person that this person told me I suck and I believe them. And then I'm going to go to therapy, and then I'm going to figure out how to not suck. The truth is that the first commercial I booked was a commercial with Little Bow Wow and like a girl band, and it was a Snickers commercial. And it was a huge, God, I wish I could remember his name. David Myers. He was a huge music video director at the time. And so it was this massive, elaborate commercial. And my whole job was just to be stoned on the couch, staring at a television. And all this weird stuff happens around me, and I'm just supposed to be like, whoa. And I was like, I know exactly what that is. I know that guy because I'm that guy every night. And I realized, I thought at that moment in the audition, I'm just going to do what they tell me to do. I'm just going to do exactly what they tell me to do. And they were like, just sit there. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit there. And I got a call back. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm just like, I really just sit there. And then I realized I got on set and I was like, oh, because I'm just one spoke on the wheel of this whole big thing turning. I don't need to do anything. There's nothing for me to do. I'm playing the role so that you can enter into what I'm doing in order to deal with all the madness around me. And that kind of kicked it off for me. And I lose jobs because I've booked, like I said, like 140 something commercials, and I've lost probably 1,000, something like that. Right.
It's hard as a performer to bring down your level of performance, like with hosts, a lot of times it's similar to what you're talking about. it's, it's me, look at me, I'm this, I'm great. Let me ask you a question, but really let me make the question about me and let me interject something about me. And when I work with hosts, I just say, think of yourself as a point guard. You're there to make the guests look great. You're there to set other people up. But like, so people who are on camera typically have big personalities. So I think it's challenging to go, okay, less is more. Yes, I'm really funny and big and huge, but I'm going to dial it down. And I think that takes a lot of discipline.
It does. I'd say it's so hard to do because you're asked as a performer. Certainly, I mean, the only thing I really haven't done is stand-up comedy. And I've even tried, that in bits and pieces. I mean, I've done tons of improv, tons of theater, tons of television, live and not live, film. I mean, I've really done it all. And each medium asks something, and I've hosted each social media, each medium asks something different of you. And the hardest part is to stay true to yourself no matter what it is. I think the hardest thing for me as a host, and what I loved watching you, and certainly, I mean, you and Ryan are kind of like, Ryan Seacrest are kind of linked to me in a way just because of when I started hosting. But watching you and Ryan, there was something amazing that you both did that I admired so much, was that you didn't try to fill the space. You let the moment happen, whatever that person or thing was existing. And when you were ready, you said something, or you did something, or you remarked on it, or you allowed them more space because they needed to say something more. And I was like, oh shit, I just kept trying to fill I even do it now. I just try to fill the space a lot. And so that was really hard for me. It still is hard for me.
Yeah, but the cool thing is when you have the discipline to do that, there are still plenty of opportunities to shine. Like when I say be a point guard's still going to get his points, right? Like Magic Johnson got a ton of points, but even a point guard who's not a primary scorer, you're still going to have your opportunities. So you don't always have to go for it all the time. But and look, you did a great job on You Pick Live, and to bring it back to Nickelodeon, we were both so young at the time, and we're doing these amazing things and traveling. You got to do the Kids' Choice Awards pre-show at least once, right? If not more.
A couple times, yeah.
Yeah, that was, for me, that was cool. That was like red carpet, or I guess orange carpet as it was, before their big award show. That was a moment where, there's Justin Timberlake is over here, and Britney Spears is over here, and there's Bruce Willis. And that was just like, oh, this is pretty cool.
It was awesome. It was an amazing experience. I mean, Nickelodeon really gave me, it was like going to school again. It was like, I learned how to be a professional host. I learned how the structure of television works. Because I worked in New York, I got to work with amazing, not only producers, live directors, but our big bosses were executive producers and vice presidents and creative directors, and just understanding the inner workings of how a network functions was incredible. And then going out to LA and seeing that whole world and how that existed, and seeing really, in New York, I hadn't really seen famous people. I didn't really care. New York doesn't really care. But then LA sort of wraps itself around famous people, which is fine. I mean, I'm totally fine with it. I think it's great. But it sort of wraps itself around it. And going to Kids' Choice Awards was just that. Like Will Smith was on, and then all of a sudden Christina Aguilera was up there, and then Jimmy Fallon was up there, and Jennifer Lopez was, and I was like, whoa, Jennifer was wonderful, by the way.
Yeah, sure. She's from down here in South Florida, so now you have another reason to come visit me. We'll go hang out with J-Lo. Great. And for you also, you were talking about meeting seeing the inner workings of a network and seeing the producers, and you have now taken a lot of those skills, and in addition to still acting, you've taken on an executive producer hat. Tell us about Life of Dad and the things that you're doing. Every time I interview someone on this show, all month that I've been doing it, it seems like all of us share this common theme of pivoting to some degree, moving forward, taking skills that we've learned and implementing them for other ventures. And you have now become not just the guy who's funny on camera, you become the content creator. What a cool progression for you.
Yeah, I think Nickelodeon taught me that. I mean, You Pick Live was probably about 5 to 7 years ahead of its time. We were the social media show, generating show before social media existed. We were trying to get kids involved in the show. We were trying to get kids to vote. We were doing polling. We were talking directly to audience. We were sending cameras so kids could control the show. Like, here we were doing all of these things, and social media just didn't exist. And the ease and function of that didn't exist. But towards the end, like 2004, 2005, and I was still hovering around Nickelodeon for many years after that, doing, I was doing a lot of voiceover for them. I was the voice of a lot of promos and stuff like that for many years after that, and doing little things here and there. It really showed me that, wow, this thing is going to take off. This digital media thing is going to take off. And that's when you and I got into doing Bleacher Bloggers. And I remember that show was so much fun, and probably the most fun I've ever had doing a show was doing Bleacher Bloggers with you. And it was an unmitigated failure.
Thanks. Commercially, it was a
failure.
No,
commercially. And I say it's a failure because, and Next New Networks, the company that we did it for, had the right model. They were perfectly on par with it. Just the universe hadn't caught up to it. And they were trying to market us and get us marketing money so that we could keep doing the show and function as a business, right? They couldn't get marketing money because everyone at that time, this was like 2006, 2007, was like, we're not giving you money to put something online. Now, like, I work with influencers all the time. I consult all the time. I'm the creative director at Life of Dad, and brands are throwing us money. They can't throw us money fast enough. Which is great and wonderful, and I don't blame them. I think it's the right thing to do, but it was even the right thing to do back then. They just didn't know how to do it, And so that was kind of the bridge for me. The other thing was, after Nickelodeon, if you have any violin music, I'd love for you to play it right now. This would be nice undertone for this.
You should have told me ahead of time. I am the host, the producer, the executive producer, the director, the music guy, hair and makeup.
This is the moment in the VH1's behind the Brent special where it gets dark. This is the dark. So
I'll put it in post-production.
If any kids are listening, this is the moment where you get down in the belly of the volcano and then you rise and erupt out of the volcano. But I got really sad, man. I got really sad because I was doing lots of auditioning and I wasn't booking anything for big shows, big television shows. Had callback for 30 Rock to play the page, Kenneth. Got close on a couple other things, Big Bang Theory, and didn't get them. And that's the story of thousands of actors, certainly. But up until after Nickelodeon, really, I hadn't had much failure in my life. I really just kind of kept going thing to thing, making great money, making great projects, and having a blast. And so I didn't really experience much failure until in my 30s, my early 30s. And it was the same time that I got married, same time I had a kid. So lots of am I worthy kind of stuff going on. And it was really hard. And I also saw the business changing. We moved to LA in 2009. And I immediately started working for a production company that was doing commercials. And I had done so many commercials and realized wow, I'm not very good at auditioning for traditional television. I'm getting little bit parts here and there, but I'm not booking big roles. This isn't good. And I'm 30 something, this isn't good. So that was when I decided to pivot. Kind of Bleacher Bloggers. You and I did the men's room for Spike TV. And I realized there's a lot of room to create out there and I can do that, but I need some more real life experience with producing and production. And I really had kind of skipped all those steps. I just kind of became the actor, performer, and actor. And Nickelodeon gave me a little opportunity to, create some ideas or whatever it was, but most of those got squashed. Oh, and I made a pilot for Nickelodeon as well. So I had that inkling. And then from 2009, moving out here, I said, let me do all of the branded content. And at that time, again, it was very new, all the branded content stuff. And brands were starting to come to us and say, hey, we want to do this weird thing for digital and social. And that's weird, isn't it? And I was like, no, not weird. Let's do it. And so I kind of cut my teeth doing lots of branded stuff for this production company. And meanwhile, I was running around LA pitching short form digital stuff to networks. And they were laughing me out of every single room that I was in, saying, there's no need for it. We're not going to do it. This is stupid. Why would you do that? It's, we just need big ideas, big ideas. And I was like, no, well, social media is going to take over your entire life, but okay. And everyone wants little pieces of content, but okay. And I'm trying to help you see this. And because I am a prophet. And
did you do it just like that?
Yes.
Did you lean in?
That's how I would leave every meeting. Going, I know you think my idea is crap, but I am a prophet. Bye.
At least you said bye. That was courteous.
I did. I felt, because my Catholic guilt at the end was like, don't leave on a bad note. Just be nice. Say nice thing.
Was that too much? I'm sorry if I overdid it. I'm so
sorry. Yeah. I can come back and pitch the whole thing again and just be nicer. Is that okay?
Whatever you need.
You can still tell me I'm an idiot, but I'll just be nicer. So anyway, I went to Paula Kaplan, of all people, who had been at Nickelodeon and had moved on to Awesomeness TV, where a bunch of Viacom people had moved to when I was still at the production company. And I was pitching my short form ideas, and I walked in and she goes, oh, that's great. This is what we do here. And I was like, whoa, what? You're the first person in like 5 years to say this to me. And it was true. And, Brian Robbins ran that company, and Joe Davola ended up being my boss, and Paula Kaplan and Joe were my bosses.
You just said Joe Davola, and I don't know this story, but Joe Davola was a character on Seinfeld. Is there any?
Correct. Joe Davola was like a huge pioneer at the beginning of MTV. I mean, he was massive.
So they took his name and they created a character?
He's crazy. I did not know that. And he's crazy. He's amazing. He is a reality game show television savant. Everything that he used to say to me, he was a 60-something-year-old. He was a teenage girl trapped inside the body of a 60-something-year-old man. And
That's
I swear to God, this guy understood teenage girls. It was incredible. I mean, that was that was the main audience of MTV after a while. And that was the audience that Awesomeness TV was. And so I became the EP of their flagship show, Top 5 Live, which was a lot like You Pick Live. So I took all of that experience, brought it there in social media chunks. And it was amazing. And Joe kicked my ass every day and was like, why'd you make that decision? Every single day he questioned everything I did. And it was boot camp for me as an EP. To trust my instincts, to know that they had hired me to do the job, to say what I wanted to say, to get my staff and my crew to do what I needed them to do, to go out there every single day and crush. And live television every day is a monster.
It is. And I
monster. It is not for the faint of heart.
I've loved how our conversations over the phone and in person, they've evolved over the years. 15 years ago, we were talking about, hey, how do you host this segment? What do you do with this? And now we're talking about budgets and hiring art directors and whatever it is. And I think, it's so interesting that if you go back to when we were hosting, I personally didn't think about anything beyond being on camera. That was like it for me. I'm just going to be a host forever. But that's, survive and adapt.
But you also taught me something, especially when we did Bleacher Bloggers. You had kind of tucked away a really great writer all of that time. And I didn't really realize that until we were doing Bleacher Bloggers. And I quickly was like, oh, I don't know how to write. and I was like, Dave really knows how to write. You know how to write jokes. You know how to write storyline. You know how to craft the projection of where we were headed. You understood segues and sequiturs. Like, I didn't understand any of that. And so that was a big thing that you taught me coming out of there was, oh crap, I need to learn how to write. And even if it was just in service of whatever it was, I didn't need to know how to write a book, or I didn't need to know how to write a full script. But leaning into that stuff and going, oh, my brain knows how to do this when the camera's on.
Right.
My brain can do this when the camera's not on. And that's what I saw you doing. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I think I can do that. And I'm still not very good at it. But now, now for Life of Dad, just this past week, I've written 3 creative decks with 9 different concepts for different types of relatable social media content and spots that I have to do.
So we've mentioned a few of these properties. People may not know all the details about them. Bleacher Bloggers was a show that we did, well, I don't know, early mid 2000s, like 2005 in there
2007,
somewhere.
I think it was 2006, 2007. Yeah.
We were both living in New York. We did it out of my apartment. It was a sports comedy satire, a lot of impersonations. Check it out on YouTube, if for no other reason than just to watch us.
Anytime you want to do it again, I am ready. I'm not kidding. I will do. We can do it just like this. I am ready, homie.
Well, as we said earlier, maybe the market is finally ready for us. We were ahead of our time. That was the problem. But we would impersonate, A-Rod and Roger Federer, and it was just fun, man. Because you're for all the nice things you said about me as a host and a writer, you're just a tremendous actor and really funny and a great impersonator, if that's the right word. So watching you impersonate athletes, and then Life of Dad, where can people go see these episodes and see you and check out more about the brand?
So Life of Dad is who I went to after Awesomeness TV. So I'm now the creative director at Life of Dad, which is the largest group of dads on Facebook. We have about 3.5 million followers, and we put up lots of content. So I run the content department. I run videos. I work on with all the brands who come through. So the PR agencies, the media agencies. I run the creative for all of that. And then I put up my own original content, which I'm doing more and more. So I was always very timid about social media, even though I saw it as a means to work for other people and brands and for other pieces of content. I never really wanted to put myself out there. And so I found my niche. The love, the fun of being a dad and a parent is something I know really well and understand really well. And so I love talking about that and communicating sort of the difficulties, the comedic difficulties and hardships that parents go through and how tough it is. And so I'm getting more into making the content as well. But really, I work with so many dad influencers around the country, and I help them. I consult with them. I consult about what style of content they're putting up. I have all these stupid marketing formulas about what works on social media and what doesn't work on social media and why it works and when it doesn't work and why and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I work with these dad influencers. I create the content and when we're off. And this is, to me, so I guess this is where I go is this is the future. Right, the way I see the future of content is you don't need, no offense to NBC, but you don't need NBC to tell you what to watch. Kevin Hart is a better network, if you will, for comedy. If you like Kevin Hart and you want to see comedians like Kevin Hart, go to Kevin Hart's network and you'll see only comedy that Kevin Hart likes and is like Kevin Hart. If you want to see NCIS, go to some director who directs dramas that loves dramas and is putting up drama type shows, right? This is kind of it'll still be a while. We're probably still a decade or so away from it. But when I'm watching these influencers and I work with them all the time, every day, every 6 months, every year, they're getting more and more savvy. I'm teaching them how to run their own little influencer pod like a network. Be your own programmer. Be your own network. Understand what the brands want from you. Understand what you want from yourself. Understand when you should be programming, what kind of content. This is all the ways that a network thinks. How are you going to pay for the other people that you hire? And you're doing it yourself. And then how are you going to bring in a family? So I have this wonderful guy that I work with who I just am so blown away by, this guy, Dude Dad, Taylor Kalmus. And I've watched him from the moment of him becoming a dad influencer, where he was confused about who he was and what he wanted his messaging to be, but it was kind of working for him and he was kind of funny and things were going well. And I've helped him over the last like 2-3 years. He's now got a television show, a reality television show coming out on the Magnolia Network. He just passed 1 million subscribers on Facebook. He's totally dialed in his universe that his influencers love and that he loves imparting to the influencers. But then he's also created a community of other influencers. And I'm trying to convince him with these guys that he's working with around the country to create basically a sitcom with these 3 other dad-like influencers. And here
Fantastic.
we are. Yeah. And that's where we're headed. These people, that's where we're headed.
Dude, you've come a long way from diving through clam chowder in Central Park. It would seem. All right, before we say goodbye, Brent and I, while we agree on most everything, we vehemently disagree on our professional sports teams that we root for. No discrepancy more evident than the Patriots and Jets. Patriots him, Jets me. Tom Brady is no longer with your beloved team. First of all, I don't even want to ask you do you think they're going to play football this season? Because honestly, if the answer to that is no,
I'll just cry. We'll just start crying.
I'm just going to cry. So let's assume that they're going to play football. I think this is the year that the Jets win the AFC East. Call me a Pollyanna. That wasn't a joke.
That's a real laugh. That's not like I'm making it up for the camera. Like, you're an idiot. Like,
it's probably the Bills, to be honest with you.
It's probably the Bills,
right? Who wins the division? What do you think?
Probably the Bills.
Yeah.
But I can't even do it. I was trying so freaking hard to say something nice to you, and there's nothing. I can't say anything to you. Your team is horrible.
They're pretty bad, but we got a quarterback.
You do have a quarterback.
I think
he gets hurt a lot, and that's a problem.
Mono too. I mean, only the Jets.
And he gets hurt a lot. I will say this. I am very excited for both things. I'm very excited to watch Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. I think it's going to be ridiculous and hilarious and fun and weird. And I'm kind of stoked for that weirdness. And I'm excited to see how the Patriots do. Like, this is right. I mean, if you're a Patriots fan, we've been talking about this for a long time. Like, who can do it better? Can Brady do it without Belichick, and can Belichick do it without Brady? I think Belichick has a better shot of doing it well without Brady than Brady does without Belichick.
Boy, that is interesting. Boy, we'll have you back just to talk about that, because that's its own show. Yeah. Brady or Belichick. God, that's super interesting. All right, dude, if people want to follow you, where are you at? Where are you at?
I'm on Facebook, but don't go to me on Facebook because I'm just always railing about politics. I'm just such an angry. This is why I can't have my own social media stuff, because I just read and yell about politics.
Within 2 minutes of following you, someone is either going to love everything you say or never talk to you again.
Oh my God. I can't tell you how many fans of Nickelodeon I've alienated over the years because they've been like, Brent, can I follow you on Facebook? And I'm like, sure. And then they're like, oh my God, relax. And I'm like, don't tell me to relax. I'll tell you to relax. You relax.
I feel the all caps. You don't use all caps, but I feel the all caps.
I use so many exclamation points. And I just tell you, and I always end everything with vote! Vote!
Let me put it to you this way. It's not hard to figure out which way he's leaning if you spend 3 seconds on his Facebook page.
Even my kids are like, Dad, you really don't really look at other perspectives. And I'm like, no, I do. I read all the articles. I read all of the articles.
Vote, kids.
They're like, Dad, you just read so many articles. I'm like, yes, that's how you suck in information. And then you tell everybody about the information.
Dude, thank you for being on the show. What else is there to say? Love you, man. So fun. Always good.
Great.
Yeah.
Just have me as the guest every show, just because we'll just have a blast. And then no one will actually ask questions.
That's fine. We did get some questions, but I thought we were gonna riff. By the way, we can't let the show go without an appearance from the star.
You're a superstar.
That's Uncle Brent.
And you're looking at me now because you're a superstar.
He's looking at you like you're crazy, just so you know. I know. I'm sorry. I can't. I know.
I'll go in if there's questions. I'll tell you what. Here's the promise I'm going to make to you. If there's questions there, I'm going to go back through the feed right after this, and I'm going to answer them.
Okay. Most of them are about laundry. And
I'll tell you all about the underwear that I wear. I only wear black Calvin Klein trunk boxers.
Good to know. Thanks.
Boom.
All right, buddy. I'll see you soon, man.
Okay, love you, bro. Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for having me on. Bye.
You got it. Bye, guys.